Lions are supposed to be the kings of Africa, strong, confident, feared by everything from hyenas to buffalo. But in the 1990s, something happened in the Serengeti that stripped them of all that power. Rangers started reporting lions stumbling like drunks, collapsing in the grass, drooling uncontrollably, even lashing out at nothing. At one point, nearly 85% of the lions in the Serengeti were infected. People started calling them zombie lions. And honestly, when you look at the footage and the descriptions, it's not hard to see why. These weren't horror movie zombies, of course. No undead lions crawling out of graves, but a real virus that pushed the most powerful predators on the continent to the edge of collapse. Before the disease hit, life for Serengeti lions was about as good as it gets for a predator. Prey was everywhere. Massive herds of wildebeest and zebra moving across the plains, basically a walking buffet. Lions didn't need luck, just teamwork and patience. Strong prey meant strong prides. Some groups had 20 or more lions, females hunting together, males holding the borders, and cubs wrestling in the grass in the middle of it all. Each pride ran like a unit, and for the most part, it worked. Lions also shaped the entire ecosystem. They kept hyenas in check, picked off the weak animals in herds, and even left scraps that fed scavengers. In one way or another, most of the Serengeti's balance came back to lions doing their job, which is exactly why what happened next was so shocking. Predators that seemed untouchable suddenly couldn't even stand straight, and prides that once ruled valleys were left falling apart. The change wasn't dramatic at first. A lion here or there seemed unsteady, losing its coordination. Some twitched or shook as if their muscles weren't listening to them anymore. At first, it looked like bad luck. Maybe an injury, maybe poison from a rotten carcass, but soon it was showing up everywhere. Whole prides started acting strange. Lions that once moved with power and confidence were staggering through the grass, their heads low, their jaws dripping with saliva. Some collapsed mid-step. Others grew irritable and unpredictable, snapping at their own pride mates or attacking in ways that made no sense. For rangers and researchers on the ground, it was unsettling to watch. These were the same lions that had once ruled the plains without challenge, now reduced to confusion and weakness. And the worst part was, no one yet knew what was behind it. The mystery didn't last long. The tests confirmed it. The lions were being torn apart by canine distemper virus, or CDV. Normally, this virus runs through domestic dogs. It spreads in saliva, urine, and even in the air when an infected animal coughs. Around villages and cattle posts on the edge of the Serengeti, unvaccinated dogs carried it freely. From there, it jumped into wild carnivores. For lions, the infection was catastrophic. Their immune systems weren't adapted to deal with a dog virus, so once it got in, it spread fast. The virus doesn't just hit one system either. It moves through the lungs, gut, and nervous system. That's why lions showed such a mix of symptoms. Some coughed and wheezed, others wasted away from weakness, while many lost control of their muscles and nerves. The nerve damage was the most disturbing. It caused tremors, seizures, disorientation, and erratic behavior. A healthy lion moves with precision, stalking, sprinting, tackling prey. A sick lion under distemper looked nothing like that. Their coordination was shattered. Some circled aimlessly, some collapsed, and others lashed out at pride mates in confusion. That was the behavior that earned them the zombie label. And it wasn't just lions. In the early 1990s, African wild dogs in the Serengeti were wiped out almost completely by the same virus. Cheetahs and leopards showed signs of infection too. Hyenas carried it, sometimes without dying, which made them silent spreaders. It was a chain reaction that exposed just how vulnerable Africa's top predators were to diseases coming from domestic animals. Scientists later found that genetics may have played a role. Serengeti lions are relatively inbred compared to some other populations, which could have weakened their ability to fight off new pathogens. It meant that once distemper got in, the lions had little natural resistance to stop it. This wasn't just another disease outbreak, it was a perfect storm. A dog virus meeting predators with no defenses, spreading across a landscape where prides constantly overlap. By the time researchers figured it out, the infection had already raced through most of the population. By 1994, the outbreak had torn through almost every lion pride in the Serengeti. Roughly a third of the entire population was dead. Around 1,000 lions. And those that survived didn't come out untouched. Many were weak, disoriented, or permanently damaged. The way prides fell apart was brutal. Cubs starved because mothers were too sick to hunt or even stand long enough to nurse them. Territorial males, usually the pride's protectors, were suddenly useless, stumbling around or lying in the shade while hyenas circled closer and closer. In some cases, prides simply disintegrated. Healthy lions wandered off, sick lions were left behind, and whole territories went empty. The shift was obvious in the rest of the ecosystem. Hyenas, freed from constant lion pressure, became bolder. They pushed deeper into areas where lions normally dominated. Scavengers like vultures and jackals did well too. Carcasses were everywhere, from lions themselves to the prey they failed to finish. Even the herds of wildebeest and zebra felt the difference. Without lions keeping the pressure on them, they could graze and move with less risk. At least for a while. What made it even more shocking was the speed. Lions are built to survive droughts, rival takeovers, even poaching pressure. But in less than a year, a virus from village dogs managed to bring Africa's most iconic predator to its knees. Researchers who had spent their careers watching powerful prides now saw animals staggering like drunks, cubs dying quietly in the grass, and once dominant valleys going silent. For a species that seemed untouchable, it was a reminder that all it takes is the right disease at the wrong time to knock the king off the throne. It looked like the Serengeti's lions might never recover. But they did. Not because the virus disappeared, but because enough of them managed to survive it. The lions that pulled through gained immunity, and their cubs inherited at least some resistance. Over time, that helped the population stabilize again. Humans played a role too. Scientists realized the virus was coming from domestic dogs on the edge of the park, so vaccination campaigns were launched in nearby villages. By reducing infections in dogs, they lowered the chances of another massive spillover into wildlife. It wasn't a quick bounce back. Lion numbers stayed low for years, and whole prides had to be rebuilt from scratch. But slowly, the Serengeti filled with lion roars again. The population didn't just vanish into history like the wild dogs had. It clawed its way back. Still, the scars of that epidemic never really faded. Researchers who watched the collapse said it changed the way they think about predators. Lions weren't untouchable kings. They were vulnerable to the same invisible threats that could topple any species. The nickname zombie lions wasn't just a headline grabber. It came from what people actually saw on the field. It seemed like the classic zombie behavior from movies: staggering, blank-eyed, unpredictable, and dangerous. Of course, these weren't the undead. The truth was even scarier. Their brains were being hijacked by a virus. And this wasn't the first time a disease gave animals that kind of reputation. Rabies has done it for centuries, turning wolves, dogs, and even humans into aggressive, biting shells of themselves. Today, we even talk about zombie deer thanks to chronic wasting disease. The lions just happen to be one of the most shocking examples because they were such powerful animals, reduced to helplessness. The nickname stuck because it captured how unnatural it all looked. These lions weren't in control of their own bodies anymore. They were being driven by something microscopic. In the end, the Serengeti lions survived their so-called zombie plague, but the outbreak left its mark. It showed that even the strongest predators on Earth can be knocked down by something you can't see, something carried in from the edges of their world. The lions didn't lose their throne to rival predators, or to hunters, or even to famine. They nearly lost it to a dog virus. And maybe that's what makes this story so unsettling. If the kings of Africa can stumble and fall to a microscopic invader, it makes you wonder what other surprises are waiting out there in the wild. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.